Before we get into this Bizgnus interview, we're asking for your subscription and for your feedback on this and all of our Bizgnus interviews that you'd like. Just scroll down and click on the subscribe button or leave your comments. Thanks.
This is the Biz News Podcast, one-on-one conversations with experts in business and personal development.
Employees are leaving in record numbers, not because of workload, technology, even compensation, but because they just don't feel seen, heard, or even valued by their managers. Our guest on this edition of Bizgnus Interviews has a plan to change that. She's HR consultant and author Kimberly Lee, who says a new approach, something that she calls the ripple effect, offers targeted coaching to create what she says will be waves of positive change that elevate individuals, strengthen company cultures, and drive measurable growth. Kim, let's start with you giving our viewers and listeners your elevator biography, which means you have to have it wrapped up by the time we get to the third or fourth floor.
Right. I am an experienced HR leader, spent time in all kinds of different industries from nonprofit, healthcare, high tech, a lot of time in private equity. And I have started my own business now using all of the things that I've learned in all of those different areas. So I wrote a book and built an app and then started a business all kind of around my passion of management, improving managers, helping managers and supporting them in their growth.
Many of our listeners and viewers over the past decade plus have been in management, and a lot of them are trying to start up a business, or at least they think they are in their heads. What have you found starting your business that you would like to have known before you did?
You put a lot of work into it ahead of time. So I had done a lot of HR consulting in the past, and a lot of that you kind of land in compliance and handbooks and things like that. All things I can do very well, but really focusing on my passion and then having to build the framework. So I think that there puts a lot of I have found that I need to put a lot of time and effort in building these things out before I can go to market. So, you kind of do a lot of stuff in the background, put a lot of content, you put a lot of effort into it before you start seeing the payoff. But I believe that once you have it packaged and everything, you have something much more tangible to contribute.
Well, Kim, as you and I and our viewers know, there are countless managers out there, some good, some bad, most in between, but there seem to be very few real leaders. What makes the difference between a good manager and a real leader? And if you're a manager, how do you become a leader?
So the difference for me is exactly, in the terms. So managing tasks, I think a lot of managers don't get a lot of support. Some organizations do try and put together things like boot camps and things like that to help support their new managers. But the challenge is in the practice. So, taking the best intent and having places that I've worked in the past, so I'm guilty of it and I understand the experience, putting together like leadership management boot camps, right? These are all the things that you need to do to manage here at this company. The core of good leadership is developing your team and creating a safe space and letting it trusting your team to do their work. And that doesn't mean everyone comes in and doesn't need some sort of development. I believe in finding talent and passion and developing that. We all need people with experience and all of those things, but truly if you have people who are coachable and anxious to learn and wanting to really grow and develop, and you create that space, you're going to get a higher performing team, which is then more leadership because they're performing and you're not task managing.
We'll get into more of your book in just a moment, but one thing that seemed to stick out was that you say most leaders have a blind spot. All right, the
Hmm.
question I want to ask on behalf of our audience is, do all leaders have the same blind spot? And how does your system help them find it and plug it up?
So not everyone has the same, blind spot, if you will. There's people are people, and we learn from our experience. And so when we go into management, a lot of what we default to naturally is what got us there. So many people, they excelled in their job, they were great individual contributors, and now they move into some sort of management role. Through that, if they need to do everything on their own and take control, and almost, on the micromanagement side, that is what got them there. And it's not going to, eventually it's not going to, it's going to hinder them, because you can't do all the things. As I told one of my clients, you have to stop rowing all the boats so you can steer the ship. And So that is one. Others don't quite know. They have a great peer network and they get along very well with their staff, but they're afraid to give that feedback. They don't want to hurt people's feelings, because that might be. So some of them don't want to give feedback because it's uncomfortable. They don't understand what coaching and developing staff is. It's not all negative feedback. It's not sitting your staff down every week and telling them the three things that they didn't do right this week. It's none of those things. It is creating that healthy, balanced relationship as a manager, so that you have the respect of your team. But through that, it's not because of fear. It's because they appreciate and respect you as a leader. You bring them on board with the vision. Everybody understands their role in accomplishing the goals, and coming from a perspective of, we all want to do well. So yeah, many leaders have, they avoid feedback. Many leaders are really, that's their gung ho. A lot of it, though, we default to task management. So one-on-one is, give me your status updates. Great, sounds great. See you next week.
Well, now it's perhaps time to talk a little bit more specifically about your book. Would you tell our listeners and viewers its name and tell us what it's all about?
Sure. It's called Building a Coaching Culture, the Ripple Effect on Performance and Growth. It is a little bit of a tongue twister. I get that. But it is a playbook. So I love all of the leadership books. Have plenty in my library that I have defaulted to. But the one thing that I have seen, and kind of going back to how we started, is, you can read all the books. My book is a playbook. My book is the book that you pick up when you before it's for development. It has toolkits. It has action items. Like, at the end of this chapter, these are the things you can do. We cover different types of management styles. We cover what to do when you identify your own management style. And we all have areas to grow and develop. Nobody walks into these types of roles, even executives, and that's why there's executive coaches. There's just things that we can grow and develop, especially with a growth mindset. This book is for all levels. I have experience with global teams. I have experience with different generations. So different generations take feedback differently. So the generations that are coming into the workforce now, they are much more, they're looking for real-time feedback. They want this, they're experienced with it, from their Instagram and all the likes. That is the feedback that they're used to. And we have to meet them where they're at. Now, I am Gen X, and so we didn't get a lot of feedback early in my career. You got your annual review, and then yeah, that was it. And no news is good news. You plug along, you do your job, and that's kind of thing. And so feedback did tend to be a little scary, because when that might happen, your boss wasn't, hey, we need to talk because you did this amazing thing. It was more, you're going to sit down and talk, right? So there's different generations. Now, that doesn't mean every person in, my generation, your generation, and, are exactly with that stereotype. It's just in general terms. There can be people who are in a different generation who really want the feedback. It's really just how to understand if you have somebody who looks for that regular feedback, what we need to do, and how to get used to and create that safe space. Understanding that feedback is meant to make you performative. So I start using sports coaching as my analogies. If you think about any sports team, whether it's the little junior pee wee football all the way through the pros, there's coaches and they're there to get the team on all on the same page. We talk about what's working, what's not working, and how we're all going to do better, with the assumption that we all do want to do our best, and that's what healthy, effective coaching does.
So good coaches can be good leaders. Good leaders ought to be good coaches as well.
Yes, absolutely. A coach's job is to make sure that we're all on the same page. We understand the goals, we understand, how we're working together, understand that you have some players that are coming into the team who are brand new to this level of whatever you're at, to those who are the Tom Brady's who've won Super Bowl championships. He still needed a coach. So
What does your book help or teach about how to deal with burnout? Because managers, leaders, and just your staff will start feeling burnout after a while.
There's a thought process that burnout is people just spending, they're just working too hard. The team is lean, you've got too many things to do. And there is definitely those times. But what I have found in my own experience, both with my teams and watching effective leaders, is making sure everybody understands how their role is tied to the goal, and they understand their value, they understand their impact, they do feel supported and developed. I think as leaders, we definitely need to learn we have to meet our staff where they're at, kind of going back to the different types of feedback. Some people want to have that huge celebration all the time. They want that public recognition. I tend to be a little more on the introverted side, which means I do definitely want to know when people think I've done well, but I'd rather you just tell me, in a brief conversation. So there's just learning people, understanding the nuances, being open to and receptive to modifying your approach to meet your team where they're at. You get a lot more out of them. They also then feel that there's the space to say, I'm just, for whatever reason it is right now, I need to scale back a little bit. People have things go on in their personal life. People have things going on in their professional life. Sometimes they just, I've been going full tilt for a while now, and I need a little break here, because we as leaders, if it's easy to default all of the great project work to those people who are just like crushing it, and we need to recognize and be open to hearing. You have to give those folks a break too.
Yeah, you can't be crushing it too long before what it starts to crush you. One of the
Yes.
things we've talked to a lot of people about over the past couple of years has been artificial intelligence. How is that going to affect your consulting industry, do you think?
Well, so I have embraced AI. I know that there's some, that there's some have some. It's a learning curve. So I have looked at ways to bring that into my consulting. I actually built an AI leadership coaching app, which is built off of the framework from my book. So I took a bunch of courses, certifications, and I keep, AI is changing every single day. So, having to remain engaged with it. But I think that it can enhance our consulting business from, just regular helping with templates and tracking, keeping track of things. It helps with tasks. But I think that when you really are thoughtful in your approach with it, it can help create strategies and look at data. So, for example, if you've got org health data that you're looking at as an HR person, if you can pull layers of data, this can do a lot of deep analysis. Now, always verify what it comes back with. But if you've got your turnover data, exit data, and you've got some other type of anecdotal data, you can put this into a system and with the right prompts, and it can give you some key indicators that you may not have seen, or it would have taken a long time to get to.
Kim, at this point in time, we always ask, do you have a website? And we know you do, but please tell us about it.
Sure. So my website is called Lotic Systems, LOTIC systems.com. And just kind of what Lotic Systems are, it's actually a water ecosystem, and it is movement in a deep water ecosystem. And so I chose that. My book having the ripple effect, that is kind of the first go around, but if you look online, everything is a ripple effect and ripple. So I wanted to go a little deeper. This is a deep water movement, and and so that was the reason for the name of the website. And there you can read about my book, you can access my app, you can see about the whole ecosystem and the consulting work that we do.
We have talked about a lot of stuff during this short conversation. What would you like to add, though, that I have not been bright enough to ask you?
Well, I think my differentiation of what I do and where my passion is really making everything accessible and actionable. Those are the pieces that I really feel that are the gap in a lot of the consulting, and the support, the workshops, everything else. You can send people on offsite. You can do all of these great things, and I've seen where great I love them. The table group come in and they can do some really good deep dives with your executive staff, but this what I've worked towards is more of an implementation. I have done a lot of system implementations in my experience, like HRIS systems. And so I'm kind of using that framework to install a culture and give different checkpoints in communication and change management through that. So that's my differentiation.
You've been listening to the Bizgnus Podcast. We welcome your input. Send your email to editor@bizgnus.com. That's BIZGNUS.com. Thanks for listening.